Hi everybody,
Hi.
welcome back to our channel.
How are you? I hope you're having a good Sunday. It's Easter Sunday.
It's Easter Sunday. Hey everybody, before we get started, please like and subscribe.
Please, and then let us know. Give us some comments about what you...
We have been getting some good comments.
Yeah, we have. But if you want to know something specifically, we could work it into our next video. So like and subscribe.
Thank you everybody.
Yes, thank you for being here with us.
So Ina's going to talk while I look up a scripture.
So basically, Jason was explaining to me the importance when we were going through our difficult times to make sure that you get your facts together and get your facts straight. And that was always something that he would explain to me. And logic, of course, wasn't really allowed, especially with Jehovah's Witness elders. And I often would find that when he would give me information from outside sources, I would just kind of shut down. I wouldn't ever really investigate or explore the information that he was telling me. I also associated that information with a lot of the failings or the marriages that would fall apart that we knew that were close to us, family members that looked up information, like for instance, the book Crisis of Conscience. It seemed to me like these individuals, once they read that book, their marriages fell apart. So I didn't allow myself to listen to the logic or listen to the information that he gave me because I was afraid that our marriage would fall apart. And if you go to the district conventions and during meetings or whatever, the brothers always say if one person is following the organization, that one person in the marriage, then it keeps the family together. So I would try and make sure to do that, to be that person in the marriage, to follow the organization and to follow Jehovah, because Jehovah and the organization are one. Those 8 men in Bethel, or prior to those 8 men in Bethel, anybody who was considered the faithful and discreet slave class, but because before the 8 men in Bethel, it was anybody who was in the faithful and discreet slave class, which we didn't even know who they were in the 80s, not really. And in the 60s and 70s, we knew Franz was Fred Franz, Genghis. I knew these individuals were part of the faithful and discreet slave class, but at the time, the information that was given to us was anybody who was partaking was considered the faithful and discreet slave class, not now the individuals running the organization. Anyway, I'm kind of digressing, but the importance of making sure to follow their direction. And if you weren't following their direction, then, your marriage might not survive, or your marriages wouldn't survive. And so I was doing the very best I can, or I was doing the very best that I could to maintain that spiritual outlook. And because of that, I wasn't able to look things up logically. I wouldn't let myself, because I was in fear that my marriage would fall apart. But I realize now that those marriages fell apart because they were weak in the first place. It was hard for them. They were together for reasons, and that had nothing to do with, there was weaknesses in their marriages, and it had nothing to do with being a spiritual person or not a spiritual person. It just had to do with being a selfish person. And
As a Jehovah's Witness, your purpose for getting married is convoluted in the first place. You find somebody who is a believer like you, and you marry that person. When Ina was a believing Jehovah's Witness, she would always tell our girls that she wants them to marry somebody who loves Jehovah, which meant a Jehovah's Witness, right? So that's your only criteria as a Jehovah's Witness. especially a sister, because you have so little to choose from. There are twice as many of you sisters in the organization than brothers, right? So that's why so many times the sisters are all over a new brother, if he's decent looking at all, comes into the congregation. And so many of y'all brothers are pretty homely looking. Sorry, but it's true.
They're just not. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And the amount of mental illness that this organization attracts and then fosters is off the charts. It's Jehovah's Witnesses aren't particularly bright, and so many of them are mentally damaged, emotionally damaged. You don't have a healthy pool to choose from, sisters and brothers.
Can I just interrupt you?
Go ahead.
I just want to say too, I think the fabric of our society right now is very fragile mentally. And so I feel it's been that way for quite some time. We just haven't recognized it. And people like Jehovah's Witnesses and their organization, the organization leaders know how to prey on that kind of the fragility of that mental state, that fragile mental state. They know how to prey on it.
And religious leaders are that evil. Just, you do not need to give these people the benefit of the doubt. They are that evil. Governing body members see all of the apostate literature. They see all of the apostate videos.
All the children that got molested, they know.
They know it's true. They know it's true. And I want to read a scripture that I read to Ina probably 15 years ago. And I thought, this is going to cause her to think. This is coming from the Bible, right? And it's Proverbs 18:17. And it says, in a lawsuit, the first to speak seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines, right? So, Jehovah's Witnesses are convinced of their position by the constant indoctrination. 5 meetings a week, the gathering of the brothers and sisters, and believe me, all they talk about is, oh, did you hear what do you think of the new watchtower? My mom always called it studying her lesson. I gotta study my lesson, So that's all the information you're given. The first to speak is the one you believe. But the Watchtower Society does not allow you to listen to the cross-examiner, the person to come along and say, I heard that, but what about this, right? So you're stuck. You're stuck, mentally stuck in being convinced of Watchtower indoctrination. And you know as well as I do that the Watchtower is always discouraged looking at or being a part of any apostate literature or reasoning. They call apostates mentally diseased, that you'll be sucked into their satanic thinking, on and on and on, and it causes a lot of fear. And Ina had this fear. My mom had this fear because when I was young, I used to ask her questions, just reasonable questions. She didn't have an answer for. She just got scared that I was asking the questions. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
Can I interrupt again?
Go for it.
I was going to say too, growing up in the organization and seeing my dad, witnessing my father going to the elders, you already know that you don't question the elders, and they tell you that over and over and over again. You know, don't question. So we know what's best for you. So I already knew not to really, my subconscious knew that. I didn't even bother. I didn't even question the elders.
Well,
I didn't bother with the details because it wouldn't have mattered.
You're taught that these men are appointed by Jehovah's Holy Spirit, right?
So you're in fear.
Right. So you're in fear because everything you hear from the podium comes from Jehovah, right? It comes from Jehovah through Jesus to the governing body, to the elders, to you guys,
And it's taught.
to the rank and file Jehovah's Witness.
It's
right?
taught. You have to have a healthy fear of God.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a healthy fear of God.
Right.
They use the word.
Yeah, they do. They use the word fear. So it's just it's really effed up. It's really bad, the mind control that the Watchtower Society and really any other like religion that is similar to the Watchtower Society, and there are many, they really know how to control the masses. And this is, I always told Ina, there's only so much psychology in the world, and religions use this controlling psychology. Businesses, political parties use this same psychological manipulation to control as many people as possible, because if you can control what somebody thinks, you can control what somebody does. And I think I've quoted it before. I forget who said it. It was a philosopher, but he said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And that's true on so many levels. The atrocity could be a suicide bombing, where you think that you're killing yourself and others for Allah. Or the atrocity could be hating your husband who loves you dearly.
Or your wife, depending on if you're,
Or your wife.
Marriage, yeah.
Right.
Your marriage is, and anyone who loves you, because you can be gay and somebody's telling you, you don't have to feel this way about loving me. You can love me. It's okay. And I just feel like that is so hard for Jehovah's Witnesses when you're heterosexual. I can't even imagine what it would feel like if you were gay. This is a society that's barely coming into understanding and loving and being accepting. And even now, people who are gender neutral, people don't, know how to deal with that. Their children are being grown up. They're growing up in this society where there's still right and wrong and black and white. And as a Jehovah's Witness, it was always like that. There was no gray area. And in my home, there was no gray area. And we discussed this morning. It was a full hate, because we're trained to hate what is bad. So when you hate what is bad, you don't hate the person, right? But, you hate the badness. And my husband left the organization. So yeah, I hated my husband. And my grandmother would always say, Ina, there's a thin line between love and hate. And that can make you do dangerous things. And I agree. It can make you do things to someone that you really love and is there for you. But because you go to a group of people and you sit amongst this group, which I'm so grateful to COVID for that reason. You get an opportunity to kind of be alone and think about what you have been taught. And a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses now are having that opportunity to really think about what has been taught to them. Religion is changing all the way around, all over the world. And it's interesting because a philosopher had said, I can't remember who we were listening to, but the older gentleman who had said, religion will change, and either it will change and become something totally different from what we were normally used to something totally different.
Daniel Dennett.
Oh yeah, Daniel Dennett. And so either it will progress or it will stay stagnant. And then for Jehovah's Witnesses, it has progressed to Zoom meetings and jw.org, and they have their own JW broadcasting. So it's totally different from what it was in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s when they would go to big district conventions and take all their lunches, and it would be 7 days, and you would stay in different areas for 7 days with your family members and your friends and eat hoagies and danishes and coffee. It's changed.
It's being forced to turn into an online-only religion, which is going to eliminate a lot of people. People in third world countries that don't have access to Wi-Fi or computers, right? So what are they going to do now? It's a good thing.
You're shedding.
I'm shedding. But yeah, I see it as a good thing. 2019, we didn't even have Zoom meetings yet. We didn't have, people were still going to meetings in 2019, out in service, gathering together. But the 2019 service year report is the first year in a long time, I think since '76, that there was a decline in membership in Jehovah's Witnesses. I can't imagine what the 2020 service year report is going to look like when nobody was able to go to meetings and they had to get on a computer to go to meetings. Can you imagine people getting on a computer and just not knowing what they're doing and searching Jehovah's Witnesses, what they were finding?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I was in the organization at the time when I think Lloyd had a discussion about this. In passing, I listened, and where you would show somebody a video at the doorstep, right? And I did that. I was able to show videos probably once they started. I never listened to the organization when it came to topics, because they give you a certain topic that they would want you to discuss at the door, or they had a certain framework in order for you to talk to the householder. But in order for me to talk to the householder, I had to use a different way of doing it. So I didn't do it that way. It used to be the Watchtower and the Wake, and you could pull out your Watchtower and Wake, find an article that you liked, and then go from there. Now they had a certain way of you accessing a householder's mind. And that was to get your video, get your phone, pull out the phone, turn on the video, and let them look at the video, which was very difficult because people don't have time. People didn't have time to do that. And so what I would do is I did show videos, but I would have to do it on my own in a different way. And I remember, Jason saw that just recently and he asked me, "Did you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I did that. I followed the rules. And even including in my home, I followed the rules, which was detrimental to my mental health because it didn't allow me to get other information. And I think that's what has always been now that I'm stepping back and I've had some time to be solitary, I can see different patterns that religion takes in order for them to manipulate someone's mind and make them do things they normally would not do if they didn't have groups of people to mimic. Because when you go to a Kingdom Hall, again, you go into a group of people and you start mimicking their behavior, whether you want to or not. It's very difficult not to.
Mm-hmm. In my opinion, going back to this showing people jw.org videos at the door, and that combined with the fact that going out in service these days turned into standing next to a cart. I think that the Watchtower Society doesn't want you guys, you witnesses, to screw it up with words that come out of your mouth, thoughts and opinions that come out of your head. I think it's reverted back to the J.F. Rutherford phonograph, where people would go to the door and they would put on that record and have J.F. Rutherford basically indoctrinate the person over a record. So now we have another tool, a more advanced tool to do the same job, which is to show governing body members on a video, governing body helper on a video, indoctrinating that householder. So that turns you, Jehovah's Witness, into just a delivery vehicle for the indoctrination. No need to think, no need to have an opinion. In fact, we don't want you to think and we don't want you to have an opinion. Just shove this video in front of their face and let them do all the work.
But that doesn't work in a marriage.
It doesn't work in a
because
marriage.
You have opinions and you have freedoms that those men don't see in your home. Or hopefully you have those freedoms. My husband gave me those freedoms. I came from a spicy Mexican home where my mom ruled the roost. And if you didn't like it, oh, hell broke loose. All hell broke loose. So unfortunately, there was a little bit, I was difficult. How's that? I wasn't someone that just got manipulated in my home, right? My husband was very quiet and he knew there was a point where he would just have to okay, I'm gonna stop. And what it took was kindness. Lots of kindness. Lots of patience. So don't give up. I'm sorry. Just don't give up. I know when you think we're not listening, just keep quiet and quietly going through the information or put it in the background, because you can't unhear things. You can't unsee things. And if you just look up, if you're practical, if you're a practical person, a reasonable person, if that person that you love is reasonable enough to just look up Jehovah's Witnesses on the internet and all the things that come down from Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, it's not like Rutherford anymore. You have a phone, you have a computer, you have people that you live next to that can identify what is right and what is in there. And whether you think it's right or wrong, you still get the information and you can base your conclusion on the information that is given to you on a phone. So you can look up the information at least. Hopefully.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Have a great Sunday. Enjoy it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Follow your bliss.
And be good humans.